What about Out of the Whirlwind?
Out of the Whirlwind was commissioned by Kingsborough Community College for a Holocaust memorial concert. The Kingsborough Community College conductor, Simeon Loring, knew my music very well. He had seen the operas, and he said, can you do something for the Holocaust memorial that we're doing? He wanted it to be in Yiddish, and he wanted it to be for his band.
How did you come to choose a wind ensemble for this as opposed to a symphony orchestra, a string quartet?
He had a wind ensemble, and he wanted the piece for the wind ensemble. I think it was an interesting and good fortuitous choice, because it is out of the whirlwind. And also there's inspiration. Just in the act of someone asking you to do something is always inspiring. And he says, I have this large wind ensemble, and I think, oh, what an amazing idea, rather than think, could I please have some strings? You know, I didn't worry about that. It's a challenge, but it was also an exciting one.
How would you differentiate a wind orchestra from what Interlaken always used to call a concert band? What's the difference?
Well, there are a couple of differences, aside from the sound of it. But one is that the one on a part situation, there is no doubling. There's one piccolo, and the two flutes play separate parts, and the two oboes play separate parts, the English horn all the way down. Plus there's harp and double bass, and there's a feeling of it being an orchestra. In fact, there's a feeling of it being chamber music. Mm-hmm. And even better might be to call it a wind ensemble. But it's so large.
So it's a larger than usual wind ensemble.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And this piece, then the poems are in Yiddish?
The poems are in Yiddish. And
who are they by?
Well, the poems are all by survivors of the concentration camps, or victims, depending. Some poems are by victims.
Well, survivors are victims too.
Yes, yes. Well, people who either died there or survived. And some of the movements have melodies that were written by victims of the camps as well. The Workmen's Circle provided me with a lot of texts and melodies to choose from. And that was Simeon's idea. Simeon grew up in this culture and knew Yiddish, spoke Yiddish fluently, and was very interested in having something done with any of these texts. I think he gave me 30 or 40 texts to choose from. The first one is called Es brennt, it's burning, and I took some of the melody from the original and all of the text, and it's about a town burning, obviously. And then there's Mein Mama hat gewollt sein auf mein Chazana, which the song was actually written by Emil Gorovitz. And I took some of the melody again. I didn't want to use all of it because it felt a little constraining, but I took the parts that haunted me after I heard it, and all of the text. And in this one, I felt that since she's having almost a dream that her mother could be at her wedding, but her mother was killed by Hitler and was thrown in a ditch, and she's having this vision, and she keeps turning during her wedding to the musicians and says, Spiel klezmorim, and she's trying to get them to make her forget what is tormenting her during her wedding. So in that, the music goes back and forth between being quite horrific and then dreamy and then very true klezmer, which emerges and disappears as if in a dream. And I took advantage of all the clarinet players and made them all sort of in contrapuntal klezmer music there. And then there's a very terrifying one, which is simply called Treblinka. Very, very scary piece of music, which has in it a combination of militaristic sounds, expressionism that I don't usually have in my music, an almost Schoenbergian nightmare quality, but kept in very tight control so that it doesn't feel like a dream. It definitely feels like a nightmare, and it ends very frighteningly and suddenly. Those are the ones I think are the most powerful.